It's great to have you here to talk about communications. So I see We Are Innovation have been going through a lot of changes. It's safe to say in the last 12 months or so, or correct me if I'm wrong. But do you want to talk through some of these changes with us?
Yeah, gladly. It was a very important period of time for us because indeed lots of things were happening. I think that the most exciting thing for us is that we hit 50 partners. Currently, it's even slightly more than that, but it was a very important milestone for us, and hopefully that we will keep this growth and hopefully we will keep our partners same engaged. And of course, this type of growth and the project that we were working on in the last 12 months, they also required lots of internal changes, also bringing more of the structure, content calendar. If we are talking about communications work with media, I would gladly dive deeper with you, but just let me know what you want to know.
Yeah, sure. I see you've launched some new platforms. Talk us through which platforms you're on and which you think are the most impactful or engaged platforms.
Oh, we actually are testing out the new strategies right now. So we are trying to catch up on all the platforms that are available. But I think it is very important to diversify the channels that you are working with because it depends on the target audience that you would like to attract, right? So I think that LinkedIn is the best tool if you want to promote yourself as the organization, if you want to grow the network, if you want to write professional posts. This platform is well optimized. It has a good search optimization, keywords, and generally, I think the whole atmosphere of the platform is just very well coded. So LinkedIn is definitely a must-have for NGOs, advocates, personal brands as well. Then we are on Twitter. Twitter for me is a short form of content, but it's good if you post threads because sometimes when you are publishing like a briefing paper, it's complicated for a person to sit down and read 12 pages, 15 pages with a modern short span of attention. So putting the essentials would be my must have for Twitter. We're on Instagram, of course. I think that Instagram is catching up on TikTok because of the competition these days. So Instagram likes Reels, and we are trying to produce them more. So hopefully you will see some more updates with Reels. But overall, it is about the interactive content and also slowly moving to TikTok. But I think that it also applies to Instagram. If we are talking more precisely about colleagues, about establishing network on LinkedIn, then I think that on Instagram and on TikTok, there is a chance of catching some younger audience. Recently, I was also thinking, and I was sharing that with my colleagues, that these are relatively young platforms, especially TikTok, and there is a good chance that there might be the segment of the audience who we are not fully aware about, and in return this audience is not fully aware of us, but they might be potentially interested in the issues that we are working on. So I think that TikTok is also the platform that you need to look up to, and I think that this platform went pretty much far away from just being a dancing platform or a platform for lifestyle content for teenagers.
It's interesting you say that about TikTok because I'm seeing more scientists now using TikTok to communicate science. So, in terms of the communication strategies that you've experienced or seen over time, how do you think We Are Innovation have adapted its communication strategies, and how have you changed how you communicate research, insights, and even policy recommendations?
So I think that we are trying to adjust all the time because communications is something very dynamic, and I think it depends on the current landscape and on the topics that you are working on. So in our case, we are working on multiple topics, and that's why it is important to keep the communication in line. However, I think that now I will not open all my cards, but we will try to go in more informal way of communication simply because I think that NGOs and advocacy groups need it. Because sometimes to attract the attention to the issue, you need to be strategically unserious. And this is something, it is the article that I wrote recently for our website, and actually lots of colleagues said that that resonates with them and that they have a similar pain when it comes to communication strategies. So I'm thinking about how we can simplify the concept that we are operating with to make them more deliverable, especially with people who are not very well familiar with the topic. Other than that, of course, I do not say that you need to be strategically and serious all the time. Sometimes you are talking to politicians, right? You need to be formal in your communication. So I think the best way is just to have this natural filter. Like you need to filter everything that you post. You need to understand which type of the perception it can get, and also you need to pay attention on the words that you are putting, because sometimes the way how you formulate one and the same sentence can be perceived differently. And I think that working on multiple topics, including such topics as public health, you need to be careful with what you are saying, and you need to be 100% sure what you are saying, to whom you are saying, when you are saying. So just fact check yourself. That would be the tip to my own self, to my colleagues, and basically to everyone who is working in the similar field.
I like what you said about being strategically unserious. I've never actually heard it put that way, but I think that's a really effective way of putting it. And obviously, it sounds like you're segmenting your audience types. So how do you segment your audience types? And when you say strategically unserious, who are you trying to target and what kind of content might this be?
Well, so I think, as I said before, these days, it's very hard to keep a person focused simply because we have so many distractions. And then we need to understand how a person who is doing the daily doom scrolling is operating. Because, of course, if there is a person who is a professional, who is on the deeper level of understanding the issue, probably this person will go for longer pieces of content. This person would go for the article. This person would go for the paper because they will need for work. So then, okay, we need to adapt for that. We need to understand which type of content these people are interested in, something more niche, something more in depth. But if we are talking about attracting new audience, we need to understand that a person does not automatically get on Instagram, I don't know, Reels, TikTok, Twitter, and starts checking out specific issues. Yes, algorithm will probably target, and there is a predisposition for being interested in the topic, but the way how algorithm will promote that, it is on you. And to do so, it is important to use info hooks in the very beginning. So you need to be very precise. For example, you do not say, "Hello, my name is username, and today I will lead you to the most intriguing topic in the world, and you will spend around 30 seconds just for this intro." No, what you need to say is something within the lines of 5 tips that will help you to, I don't know, quit smoking, for example. 5 tips that will help you to get over your dependence on your phone and doom scrolling 8 hours per day. And I think that taking into account this short span of the attention, taking into account microtrends, because social media also operate in microtrends, I think that it's a more adaptable and more efficient strategy in the long run.
That's interesting. And in terms of public health advocacy, which platforms, in your experience, are so far most effective?
I think that's Twitter.
Mm.
That's Twitter because, first of all, threats. Second of all, I know that there are some keywords that you need to be careful with because sometimes algorithms and platforms they misread that and they can lower the coverage of your posts. With Twitter, that's not the case. And like very mathematically speaking, I think it makes more sense to be on that platform. But again, it depends which type of content we are talking about because Twitter I think it is the best when it comes to short form of content. I still need to test TikTok more to be able to tell you um, about the coverage there. I do not think that Instagram is the most efficient one. Maybe if you post some reels, but I do not think that static content performs that well. Maybe some infographics, maybe. Chances are high. And when it comes to LinkedIn, I think that it works, but I think that it should work in a way that you need to share the opinion and it should not be generic. If you're posting something that AI wrote for you, with all my respect to the AI, this is not the type of content that people are looking for. It gives all the very AI specific words. I cannot remember them right now, but something like groundbreaking technology. And you see that it's not a human who wrote that. People like authenticity. And if you want to promote yourself or your organization as the expert in the field, then I would recommend actually to start writing opinion pieces if you feel that you are confident enough. Um, and yeah, Twitter and LinkedIn would be my go-to here, probably.
That's very interesting. And as we know, digital platforms have changed how we approach public health advocacy with the rise of social media and the traction it's taken in the last few years. What do you think is next in the next 2 to 5 years in terms of where we should be putting our efforts when it comes to communication and advocacy?
I think it is important to create the buzz. I was listening to one podcast a few days ago, and it was also about social media. It was about a different niche, it was about business. But to be honest, I think that it can also be applied to advocacy because the more buzz you create, the more often you appear on someone's informational space, the higher the chances are that you will be noticed and people will remember. Now the question is that you need to adjust to who you are talking to. You need to understand the language that they are speaking. If you are talking to a person who is skeptical about some issues connected with public health, you need to understand what are the barriers for this person. You need to understand what makes them just scroll through, what makes them leave the comment, what makes them to think. So like you need to analyze all the time. And another thing that I would also say, you need to see the micro trends. I was saying that before, but I think that there are micro trends on all social media platforms. I would say that the most visible it is right now with TikTok because it is a platform that has the highest volume of user generated content, also younger audience. But we need to understand that the younger the platform is, the longer lifespan probably this platform will have, and it will grow and mature and evolve together with the users. So I would look up to microtrends. I would adjust work in advocacy up to the microtrends, and then I would just see the way how the posts are performing. If they're performing well, perfect, you are doing everything right. If not, analyze once again and do it better.
Hmm. And when you say about creating buzz, is that having more content that maybe has more clickbait content or the shocking factor or controversial language? What do you mean by creating buzz exactly?
First of all, it is the frequency of posting because
Hmm.
it is important. And fortunately or unfortunately, it is not about the quality of your content, but it is about frequency of being present on the platform. And I know that, and this is a common issue, that when people just start posting somewhere, they complain for the issue of having a high quality content that was having some scientific background and research. Then it was nicely put by designers into 5 carousel slides, and then they have reached around 200 people. And after posting like 3 carousels like that, people often give up and they think that the problem is the content. Chances are that there is the content, but usually the algorithm needs the time to understand what you are feeding it with. And the other thing about the buzz, I think that controversy, it can be okay, but it depends on your communication strategy overall, because it should align with your brand as the organization. It should align with your tone of voice as a person, because from some people and some organizations, we naturally expect something like that because they started positioning themselves from the very beginning as someone very edgy or controversial or scandalous. And it is also part of their PR. This is their tone of voice, this is their professional brand. But if there is a type of personality or a type of the organization that is very far from that, and there is no point in going into that, I would not suggest to do that. I would just offer to find the way of communication and the tone of communication that would reflect the most authentic way, because authenticity is also key. I think that people read it very well in a very non-verbal way.
That's very nicely summarized. And lastly, what's coming up next for We Are Innovation? Any notable dates, events coming up?
Well, so we are having a few projects that are currently in work. So right now we released the paper on the successes of Sweden, Czech Republic, and Athens when it comes to a decrease of smoking rates. So I would suggest our audience to take a look on what's going on there because we are preparing something interesting.
I have to say,
And
I did
overall,
really enjoy that report. Sorry to interrupt you because it had Greece as well, didn't it?
yeah,
And
yeah.
it's a very nice report. So we'll amplify that on our platforms for sure.
That would be lovely. Thank you. Yeah, so my suggestion is to keep an eye on what's going on there, and definitely we will be releasing more things very soon.
And where can we
Michael,
find you?
we are so our website is weareinnovation.global. And of course, we are on our social media platforms. It's We Are Innovation or Innovation We Are, depending on the platform. So we are on X slash Twitter. We are on Facebook. We are on LinkedIn. We are on Instagram. And we are returning back to TikTok.
Okay. Thank you very much.